Hey Ozan, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. Well, how was the weekend?
Weekend was good. Yeah, just catching up on a bunch of chores, family time, all the fun stuff. How about yourself?
Yeah, oh my God, we had birthday parties. I don't know about you, but I have a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old now today. And we had a birthday party this weekend, and it was actually interesting because there was a face painter that came, and
Yeah.
it was the first time my 3-year-old got her face painted. And in my mind, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, "Yeah, great, go get your face painted." And so she got like a giant butterfly across her entire face, and then came home later that night, and I realized that I needed to take it off. And so getting it on was like all fun and games, but taking it off, I swear the neighbors probably heard me like trying to scrape off all the paint on her face, and she was not happy about that. So,
Did she ever look at a mirror and like be shocked
oh,
at what her face looks like?
totally. She loved being a butterfly, but then once it was gone, she was not happy. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
would have thought I was like torturing her, trying to get all the paint off. So don't suggest that if you have kids. Don't do the face painting.
Well, I
Just
can't blame her. I think we all want to be butterflies. So,
I know it was
yeah.
fun for her at least. All right. Well, anyways, thanks for joining us. I'm not gonna take too much of your time, but thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself personally and kind of what led you to Startup World.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Ozan Unlu. I'm the founder and CEO here at Edge Delta. Edge Delta was started, interestingly enough, we're seeing a lot of growth in data volumes. So, in our space, which is called observability, it's really about how do enterprises and companies keep their mission critical systems up and running. And in our space, there's, primarily logs, metrics, tracing. These are all various different data sets, and frankly, the volume of those data sets is growing much quicker than budgets are growing. So, some numbers out there say that there's 50, 60, 70% growth annually in these data sets. Realistically, with microservices and moving to newer architectures like Kubernetes, there's actually a lot more growth than simply probably 50 or 60%. And so, what our technology does is allow tools to really, be able to pre-process, pre-aggregate, and deal with these large data sets in a much more efficient and scalable manner than previous traditional observability platforms. So, my kind of uh, uh, journey to starting a company was I was originally a developer at Microsoft, worked there for about 6 years, very early days of the cloud. From there, I ended up joining Sumo Logic quite early, which was pretty much the very first multi-tenant cloud-based version of a technology called Splunk, if you've heard of it, which is in our space. And then from there, obviously, with the things that I kind of seen in the industry, that's what led me to start Edge Delta.
So interesting, and such an interesting gap that you identified too. And so I would love to kind of also hear a little bit more. I know you have just a quick story about your Delaware filing, because I
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
kind of almost kept you from holding up your financing. And I would love to kind of hear what happened, maybe what you learned from it. Would you do anything differently? That would be great.
Yeah, no, that's a painful story. I'm glad you're bringing it up and pouring salt in the wound. I think when you think about it as a founder, you're coming in with a certain level of subject matter expertise in certain areas, and so for me it was engineering development, application development, security, a lot of things on the software side, being able to understand these large kind of distributed systems at scale. A lot of the things that I had a ton of experience with, but one thing that I didn't quite appreciate was, as you're starting your company, you are very, very focused in the problem that you're trying to solve. So, the first few hires that you have are going to be, developers that help you build the product. Then eventually you're going to hire kind of a small sales and marketing team. But realistically, the people that actually have to handle some of the critical functions of your business really are not usually going to be part of one of your first, let's say, 10 or 12 hires.
Sure.
And so the challenge ends up being is that you have a ton of experience in certain areas. This isn't my first business. I've done, other businesses before, but, certainly for a Delaware C Corp where you want to create it, you want to go get venture funding. Realistically, for some, first time founders doing it at that scale, there are some things that you're just saying, hey, look, this is tomorrow's problem, right? And that did bite us a little bit. when we were, and when we ended up raising our one of our rounds of funding. I can't remember which one it was, but right in the final hour, before everything was getting kind of finished up and the money was being wired, our legal team actually jumping in and taking care of the round for us ended up noticing that one of the filings that we did with Delaware had some sort of wrong information on one of the forms. I think we were using a third-party service to help us with some of those things, and unfortunately, it had a very, very drastic effect on a round where it could have really kind of stopped everything from moving forward. And so, luckily for us, we had the law firm that we were using was able to jump in and solve things in a matter of probably 10 to 12 hours, but it could have gone a lot worse. And frankly, that firm bringing in numerous partners from all around the nation, including boots on the ground in Delaware, was also not cheap either.
Sure.
So,
Can imagine.
that's something that, was a good learning experience for us. And, if I had to do it all again, being able to use, frankly, something like Ariel to be able to manage a lot of that is gonna, solve a lot of problems for a lot of founders.
Yeah, I believe that for sure. And I can imagine that was stressful in the moment too. Kind of
Yeah.
finding that out. And then 12 hours, I feel like that's a pretty quick turnaround though.
Yeah, I think so. And I think again that was kind of by sheer luck that we had people that had the right relationships and was able to kind of I think it was even after hours be able to go contact the right people and try to get it all sorted out before
Yeah, that's
the money was being wired because frankly I don't even think it would have been uh, you know I don't think we were going to be able to close around or have any of the money wire had we not fixed this in the nick of time.
sure. Well, and I'm sorry for opening the wound again, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a good story, especially if you're watching this and as a founder trying to figure out where some of the pitfalls are, and it's stories like that that kind of help people like, oh yeah, that's right, I gotta stay on top of that stuff, or when you think you have all your ducks in a row, sometimes things like that can happen and fall through the cracks, and so it's very helpful to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's a lot of chaos out there. I'm not one for being super excited about, legal paperwork and forms.
Sure.
But, even past that, I think, as a founder, you need to stick to your core competency and you need to be really focused. And, my core competency isn't, Delaware tax filings or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Why
So,
why would it be?
I think the analogy I always try to use, because we have the same thing with our customers, right? Our customers come to us for observability because they're saying, hey, look, like we don't want to go reinvent the wheel. We know you guys are experts in the space and are really kind of thinking about pushing the boundaries in this area. The analogy I try to use is like, I don't knit my own t-shirts and I don't, make my own hats. And so, I think, having something like Ariel to be able to help us is something that I think I'd recommend to every founder.
Well, that's awesome. And I will send this or say this off the cuff. Any other advice that you want to give to founders or people kind of starting out, just in terms of growing and scaling or anything like that that you've run into with Edge?
Yeah, I mean, I think I advise a lot of companies, and I would say probably uh, at the very earliest stages, make sure that your idea and what you're jumping into is something that you have a very, very, very deep knowledge and expertise in. One of the earliest questions an investor is going to ask is, why you? Why do you know this problem better than anyone else in the world? So I'd say that's probably at the earliest stages. And then kind of, moving on from there, it's about, I think, focus and execution. I think early stage investors, they look at, the team in the market, and probably third is the idea because they know the idea will, kind of evolve and change over time. So that's what I would say is, start with an idea in a space that you know really well. And then, be able to stay adaptable, which might sound kind of cliche, but that's probably my advice.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I love that. And lastly, for me, just Edge Delta. It's a great company. I think you guys have solved a really unique problem. What's the best way for people to find you guys or get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I would say, go to our website. Feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn. Edgedelta.com is the website. And I would just want to correct you. I wouldn't say we've solved it. I would say we're solving.
Solving it.
So, I think, it is always a space that's evolving. So we're pretty excited to
Sure.
be on the forefront of innovation.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today, and hopefully we get to do it soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Tia.
Thanks, Ozan.